friends or people that are thinking that maybe they'd like to try to get sober. Um, this is Maureen back again. And I'd like to continue the story so that we can start talking about some other interesting topics. So I left off with going to college and how once I got to college and could drink, I felt like I could really fit in. I graduated from college in 4 years and went on to get my first job. And I was really trusted at that job, and my boss would tell me things that I wasn't supposed to necessarily tell other people, and then we'd go out after work, a bunch of us, like to different places. Like Friday nights were always a big night out, and we would go, bar hopping after work, and I'd end up telling some of those things that she told me not to tell people, and later on, I did make amends to her for that because she trusted me, and I was young, and I was a young first manager in my first job. I was working for a health insurance company in New Jersey, and I stayed there for about 6 years, and I had a lot of friends there, but they all drank like me. Friday afternoons, we would go to the parking lot, get our cars. One of my friends would always have a case of beer on ice in his trunk and he'd hand the beers out to me and my other best friend, and we would drive to our first location drinking beer in the car. This is pre-cell phone days, so to give you an idea of what years we're talking about, this was late 70s, early 80s. So then we'd go to our, drink a beer on the way to our first place, wherever we were going. We'd have some drinks there. And then usually we'd want to go somewhere and go dancing. So then we'd leave that place and go to a different place and go somewhere where we could go dancing. And it was funny because I used to always say that people would ask me to dance, and I would always say, no, I haven't had enough to drink. No, I haven't had enough to drink. No, I haven't had enough to drink. And by the time I had enough to drink, I was falling down on the dance floor. It was really a pretty sight. I had a few really bizarre drinking stories in those days, and I got stopped by a cop twice, and it was just in the beginning of the DWI phase. And in both instances, the cop let me go. One of the times was I had gone to a party at one of my college friends' homes, and I had some other college friends following me to get to a certain road in New Jersey. And we were in Newark, New Jersey, and I got pulled over by a cop. And this is now remember, this is Newark, New Jersey. Lots of cops there, and the cop stopped me, pulled me over. I'm like, this is it. And he looked in the car and he's like, your name is Maureen, and you used to work at this one insurance company, not the health insurance, but a different one. And I'm like, what are the chances? What are the chances? So he led me to the road I was trying to go. He actually gave me a police escort to the road I was trying to get to, and I went home from there. Just, things that happened that, I don't know, I guess somebody was watching out for me at the time. But anyway, that was like, first days after college. I ended up living at home for a few years, which was troublesome because there were many nights that I would go out drinking and I wouldn't get home till like 4 o'clock in the morning. My poor mother would be standing at the front door, wondering where I was, waiting for me to come home, thinking that the cops were going to come tell her that something had happened to me. And it was sad. I felt bad, but not bad enough to do anything about it at that point in time. probably the biggest event of my 20s, because I don't have a lot of recollection of my 20s, but I would say probably the biggest event of my 20s. I was 26, and I had a younger brother, Michael, and he was my best friend and my favorite sibling, and we used to go out drinking every Friday night together with all these other crowds of people, and there were a lot, and he would be the driver, the designated drunken driver, and I'd be the passenger, and I'd be supposedly looking out for stop signs, red lights, and police, and he'd be driving. And he seemed to think that worked out pretty well, and I guess it did, because we never really had an accident or hurt anybody else, thank God. But in April of 1983, he was walking across a street, a pretty busy road by us in New Jersey, and he was walking across the street with a young lady that he had gone to get, lived across the street from him. He wanted her to come over and watch a movie with him because his girlfriend had gone to Florida. And it had snowed. This was late April of 1983. And it had snowed the night before. And at midnight, we got the knock on the door. I was with my mom. Because my dad was in the hospital in New York. He had had an eye operation. So I was staying with my mom, and it was a police officer, and the police officer said to my mother, call the local hospital, your son's been in an accident. So I distinctly remember my poor mom like reaching for the phone and calling. She was shaking hands, and my younger brother had been walking across the street and was hit by a drunk driver walking across the street, and he died. He died the next day, and that was traumatic. I get still 41 years later, I can still cry about it because I still miss him. Like I said, he was like my best friend and my favorite sibling, and we just were like two peas in a pod. My mother always used to call us M&M because the next one older than me was 5.5 years older. I had 3 older brothers and an older sister, and you know, he and I were raised kind of like twins, so we were always M&M. We looked like twins. People thought we were twins, and I was just like this. These are things that don't happen to us. You know, these are things that happen to other people, like, because I had heard about it happening to other people, but it's like, this doesn't happen to us. And I was still drinking at the time, and I was a mess. I was literally a mess. The day of his funeral, I went out with some of his friends to a bar after everybody kind of split after they all got together at our house after the service. And all his fraternity brothers, he had gone to Lehigh, and all his fraternity brothers came, and basically this was their first friend to die. And I went out that night to a local bar and literally was passing out at the bar because I was so drunk. Came home, and I can remember my 2 older brothers looking at me like, are you for real? Like, you, like with such disgust in their eyes. And these are brothers that are like 7 and 10 years older than me. And, you know, it gave me pause, but not pause enough. You know, I just like, knew that they weren't happy with me. But this was a devastating, really devastating incident, probably the first. And I was still drinking. And, yeah, it wasn't a good time for me. And shortly thereafter, I had dated in my 20s, but I never stayed with anyone who criticized my drinking or said anything about my drinking, or, you know, like if they said anything about them, they were gone. They were gone because I didn't want anybody to talk about my drinking. And so I met a man about a year and a half after my brother died, who drank like me. He said nothing about my drinking, And I'm going to continue that story in the next video, so stay tuned, okay? Because this is a good one. All right, stay tuned.